Hi, I'm Daniela of abcrafty, and today I'm going to show you how I made my DIY trellis archway using some simple garden beds, posts, and a cattle panel. The first thing to do was have my husband do 99% of the work aside from the beginning, which I completely forgot to show. I added wire mesh to the bottom of these garden beds using a staple gun. This will prevent any large critters from getting into the beds. Then I placed some recyclable paper along the bottom to help suppress any weeds. I used two beds that are 2 feet by 4 feet for the base of the trellis. I've linked to everything in the description, but as this was a collaboration with Lowe's, you can find everything you need from there. But now back to what my husband did. He marked a section around the beds, cut into them, and dug out the grass. He did this for both bed areas, spacing them around 6 feet apart. We determined the distance based on lifting the cattle panel between them into an arch and moving the beds further and closer together until the arch was the height we wanted. And of course, our dog Joker had to inspect everything being done. Next up, he aligned 6-foot fence posts and used the fence post driver to dig them into the ground. He also used a level to make sure they were standing straight up. Once the first 2 posts were in, it was time to lift the panel into place. I swear I offered to help, but when Mike's doing something, he tends to do it on his own. There's no need to put the other fence posts where you place them. The panel will arch nicely on its own. If it does start slipping though, you can put something sturdy behind it to hold it in place or have a helper. Next, we added zip ties around the cattle panel and posts to ensure it all stays in place. Then he repeated the process on the other side, putting the other 2 posts in and adding the zip ties. With the trellis itself in place, we moved the beds into their spots and started filling them with soil. We got our soil delivered locally here in Nashville, as we needed to get a bunch for our whole garden, but you can also get a few of the bags from Lowe's to fill the 2 beds. We then topped the soil with a few inches of cedar mulch, as cedar helps deter pests. As we spread it around, we made sure to knock some off the sides as well, to fill in the areas along the side of the beds. Here's how the trellis arch looks when it's all ready to be planted. You can walk through it and everything. It was then time to start planting all my seeds. I ended up planting way more varieties than what is here, but these actually ended up being some of the more successful ones and the ones I will do again next year. The key to the trellis is you want to get varieties with vines, as the vines will grow up the trellis and fill it out, creating beautiful leaves with the fruit dangling through the archway. On my trellises, I planted a bunch of variety of watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydew, pumpkins, loofah gourds, and winter squashes. The cantaloupes have turned out to be my favorites, and specifically these mini varieties. I started my trellis back in May, and now it's towards the end of August, and here's how everything did over the summer. A bunch of the melons are growing nicely. As the vines grow, you'll want to help them out and attach them to the trellis. I used Velcro garden tape. This also helps keep the vines organized. However, there was a stint where I was sick, so I couldn't get out to the garden, and the vines got extremely chaotic. As you can see, I actually ended up setting up a second arch, so I have 2 going, using 1 garden bed between the 2 of them. The second one is much more chaotic and has larger plants which got way out of control. But this one has some loofah gourds growing as well as some butternut squash, even though that one is now growing along the ground. Next year, I'll do much better with checking on everything and keeping everything tidy. I even missed a melon that started growing between the fence post and the cattle panel, which is how it got the ridges on the side. Thankfully, my husband was able to separate them and I could get the melon out. Overall, I really like how these turned out, and I'm looking forward to using them again next year, but making sure to keep a closer eye on them.